Have you ever wondered what happens when trust is broken in a marriage? What if everything you thought you knew about your partner turns out to be a lie? Stay tuned as we dive into a shocking story of betrayal, secrets, and the heart-wrenching truth that came out in the most unexpected way. It all started like any other morning. Sarah and David had been married for over 30 years. To the outside world, they seemed like the perfect couple. Comfortable, content, and in sync with each other's routines. They had built a life together, raised kids, and even retired peacefully, with their future looking bright. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. One afternoon, Sarah noticed something odd. She walked into the living room to find David on the phone, whispering. It was unusual. David wasn't someone who hid his phone conversations. "Who was that?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice calm, though she could feel the knot forming in her stomach. David quickly hung up, a forced smile on his face. "Oh, just a business call. Nothing to worry about." But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. There was a change in his demeanor, a subtle shift she couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, she noticed more strange behavior. Late nights at the office, sudden trips that didn't quite add up, and an odd detachment whenever they were together. One evening, Sarah decided to confront him. She had to know the truth. As dinner was being served, Sarah looked at David, her heart pounding. "David, I need to ask you something. Is there someone else?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, everything felt frozen. David's face paled. He cleared his throat, trying to mask the tension with a nervous chuckle. "Sarah, what are you talking about? We're fine," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. His hands trembled as he reached for his glass of wine. But there was a flicker in his eyes. Guilt. Sarah knew it then. She could feel it. Something wasn't adding up. "I'm not stupid, David," she said, her voice shaking but steady. "You're acting strange. I just want the truth." David's face hardened. "You're overthinking things. I told you, there's nothing to worry about." But Sarah couldn't let it go. The doubt was now a crack in their foundation, and she couldn't ignore it. She had to know. The next day, Sarah decided to follow David. Just a small part of her, an instinct, perhaps, was telling her that she had to see where he went when he said he was working late. What she discovered shocked her to the core. The next evening, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she quietly slipped out of the house, her heart racing. The decision to follow David felt like a betrayal itself, but her instincts told her it was the only way to find the truth. She parked a few blocks away from the office and waited. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Finally, David's car appeared, turning the corner. He parked in a dimly lit alley behind a cafe, not his usual spot. Sarah's curiosity grew, but so did her anxiety. Her hands trembled as she pressed her face against the window, watching David step out of the car. But what happened next sent a shock through her chest. A woman stepped out from the shadows. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with dark hair and an air of confidence that made Sarah's stomach drop. David walked toward her, and to Sarah's horror, they kissed. A long, passionate kiss. It wasn't just a greeting. It was intimate. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know how long she stood there, frozen in disbelief. The woman wrapped her arms around David and he didn't pull away. He kissed her back like he had forgotten about the vows he made to Sarah years ago. "Who is she, David?" Sarah whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. Her heart shattered, but she couldn't look away. The woman didn't seem like a stranger. There was something familiar about her. Sarah's mind raced. Was this someone from their past? A long-lost love? She couldn't make sense of it. All she knew was that the love she thought was solid was now crumbling before her eyes. As David and the woman walked toward the cafe, Sarah's legs felt like jelly. Her mind screamed at her to drive away, to pretend like she hadn't seen anything. But the truth was out there, and Sarah couldn't leave without knowing more. The following morning, Sarah acted like everything was normal. She fixed breakfast, like she always did, and even chatted with David as if the previous night had never happened. But inside, her heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. That afternoon, Sarah decided to confront him once again. This time, she had to ask the question that had been gnawing at her all night. The truth had to come out. "David, I need to know who she is," Sarah said, her voice tight with emotion. "I saw you with her last night. Don't lie to me." David froze. He set his coffee cup down slowly, his expression shifting from disbelief to guilt. He didn't deny it. Instead, he looked away, as if trying to gather his thoughts before speaking. "Sarah, I didn't want you to find out this way," he started, his voice barely a whisper. "Her name is Emily. She's someone I met a few years ago before we moved here." "Before we moved here?" Sarah's voice cracked. "You've been seeing her for years?" David nodded, his eyes avoiding hers. "Yes. I never meant for it to go this far. But I couldn't stop." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "You couldn't stop? After everything we've been through? After everything we've built?" The silence between them was heavy, each word hanging like a dagger. David looked up, his face full of regret. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I truly am. I never wanted to hurt you." But Sarah didn't know how to feel. Was this all just a mistake? Was David truly sorry? Or was this the beginning of something even darker? "I don't know who you are anymore," Sarah whispered, turning away. "The man I married would never do this." And with that, she walked out of the room, her heart more broken than it had ever been before. The truth was now clear, but it only raised more questions. Was this the end? Or had the betrayal only just begun? The days following Sarah's confrontation with David were filled with silence. The once warm home now felt cold and empty. Sarah tried to go about her day-to-day activities, cooking, cleaning, and even meeting friends, but everything felt pointless. The image of David with Emily lingered in her mind, like a wound that wouldn't heal. David, on the other hand, seemed distant, retreating into himself. He barely spoke to her, and when he did, it was only to apologize. But the apology felt empty, as if he was apologizing for getting caught rather than for the betrayal itself. One evening, after dinner, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She needed to understand. She needed closure. With a heavy heart, she walked up to David, who was sitting in his usual chair, reading a book. He looked up, and for the first time in days, their eyes met. "David, we need to talk," Sarah said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I need you to tell me everything. I want the truth. All of it." David sighed deeply. He closed his book and set it aside, his face falling into a mask of exhaustion. "Sarah, I've told you everything. Emily and I, we were just—" "No, you haven't," Sarah interrupted, her voice rising. "You've told me about the affair, but what about everything else? Why didn't you tell me she was pregnant?" David's eyes widened, and for a moment, he seemed speechless. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to gather his thoughts. What are you talking about?" "Pregnant, David. She's pregnant, isn't she?" Sarah's voice was sharp, almost desperate for an answer. She had overheard a conversation between David and Emily a few weeks ago. Something about a future together, a baby on the way, and a decision they needed to make. It had made Sarah's blood run cold. Now she couldn't ignore it. David's face went pale. He stared at her. His lips parted as if he was about to speak, but no words came out. The silence stretched between them like a canyon. Finally, David spoke, his voice barely audible. "Yes, she is. She's pregnant. And I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to lose you. Sarah felt like the floor had been ripped out from under her. The shock of this new twist hit her harder than anything else. Emily wasn't just the other woman. She was carrying David's child. The weight of the situation crashed down on her, and for a moment she couldn't speak. The room felt suffocating, like the walls were closing in around her. "You've been hiding this from me?" Sarah's voice broke. "You've been living a lie, David. For how long? How long did you think you could keep this from me?" David's shoulders slumped. He looked defeated. "I never wanted it to get this far. I didn't know what to do. I love you, Sarah. I do. But I love her." The words hit her like a slap in the face. How could he love both of them? How could he share his life, his love, and his future with two women at once? Sarah took a step back, her hand pressed against her chest as if trying to keep herself together. "You love her? And what about me? What about the life we built together? Do you just throw that all away for a new start with her?" David's eyes welled with tears, but Sarah wasn't sure if he was truly sorry or if he was just sorry he had been caught. The man she had known for decades was slipping away, replaced by someone she didn't recognize. "Sarah, please. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't plan for any of this to happen," he said, his voice shaky. "But sometimes life doesn't go the way we want it. I made mistakes, big ones, but I want to fix this." "Fix this?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "How do you fix a broken heart, David? How do you fix 30 years of trust, only to throw it all away for a woman you barely know?" David remained silent, his face full of guilt and regret. But it was too late for apologies. Sarah had already made up her mind. The life they had shared was no longer the one she wanted. The betrayal had gone too deep. Maybe it's time we both move on," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. "You go your way, and I'll go mine." The days after Sarah's decision to part ways with David were some of the hardest of her life. The house felt eerily silent, and every corner reminded her of the years they had spent together, good and bad. But nothing compared to the weight of betrayal she now carried. David moved into a small apartment downtown, giving Sarah space to breathe, but the emotional toll of the past few weeks was impossible to ignore. Her heart still ached for the life they had shared, but she knew it was over, or at least she thought it was. But then, something unexpected happened. One morning, Sarah received a phone call. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar but oddly urgent. "Ms. Sarah? This is Detective Martinez. I need to speak with you about your husband, David." Her heart skipped a beat. "Detective? What's this about? Is David okay?" The line crackled with static, and there was a pause before the detective spoke again, his tone serious. "I'm afraid your husband is involved in something more serious than you realize." Sarah's mind raced. What could this possibly mean? Her thoughts went back to the night she saw David with Emily, but she had no idea that their lives were about to take a darker turn. "Detective, what's going on? What happened to David?" Sarah's voice trembled with a mix of fear and confusion. "I'm not sure how to explain this, but we've discovered that David's financials don't add up. There are irregular transfers, large sums of money going to an unknown account. We believe your husband may be involved in a serious criminal activity. We need you to come in for questioning." Sarah's stomach twisted into knots. Criminal activity? David? The man she had loved for so many years, the man who had seemed so honorable and trustworthy, was now a suspect in something illegal. "I don't understand," Sarah said, her mind reeling. "David would never—" "I know this is hard to believe," the detective interrupted, his voice softening. "But there's more. We believe Emily is part of this, and there's a chance she's been using your husband in a money laundering scheme." Sarah's mind went blank. Emily, pregnant with David's child, was somehow involved in criminal activity? The shock of it all left her speechless. "Detective, I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered, the weight of the situation crushing her. I can't believe this." "We know it's a lot to process," Detective Martinez continued, "but we need you to come to the station as soon as possible. Your husband might be in danger, and you could be, too." Sarah sat in silence for a moment, the phone pressed to her ear, trying to process the new reality she was facing. Her entire world was shattering before her eyes. First the affair, then the pregnancy, and now this criminal mess that had been hidden behind closed doors. She hadn't signed up for any of this. "Okay," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'll come. I'll be there." Hanging up the phone, Sarah stared out the window. She had spent years believing that love and trust were enough to hold a marriage together. But now she had to face a hard truth. She didn't know who her husband really was anymore. David had become a stranger. She had one choice. Should she confront David about the situation? Should she trust him again after everything he'd already hidden from her? Or was it time to cut all ties, including this new revelation about Emily and the money laundering scheme? Later that afternoon, Sarah found herself sitting across from David in a sterile room at the police station. His face was haggard, his eyes filled with regret, but there was also something else there, a kind of fear that Sarah had never seen before. "David, what is going on?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What's all this about money laundering? The detective says you're involved in something criminal." David's face crumpled. "I didn't want you to get involved in this, Sarah, I swear. It was supposed to be something simple, but it got out of control. Emily, she came to me with this opportunity. I didn't know what I was getting into." "You didn't know?" Sarah's voice rose in disbelief. "You didn't know that you were ruining everything for us? For your family? For your future?" David looked down, his hands trembling. "I never meant for any of this to happen. But now I don't know what to do. I'm trapped, Sarah. I need your help. Please, help me." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she sat there, grappling with the enormity of everything. Her love for David was fading, replaced by anger and betrayal. She had always stood by him, through thick and thin, but now there was nothing left to hold on to. "I can't help you, David," Sarah said softly, shaking her head. "You've broken everything. I don't even know who you are anymore. I need to move on. For me." David looked up at her, his face full of desperation, but Sarah's decision was final. "I'm sorry, but this is over," she whispered. The days after Sarah's decision to walk away from David were filled with confusion, hurt, and a constant battle within her heart. She had made the choice to leave him, but there was a nagging thought that kept pulling her back. Was she really done with him? Was there still a part of her that could forgive him? Then came a phone call that would change everything. It was late at night when Sarah's phone buzzed. She was sitting alone in her living room, staring blankly at the wall, when she saw the name flash across the screen. Emily. Her heart skipped a beat. Why was Emily calling her? After everything, after the affair, after the lies, why now? Reluctantly, Sarah answered. "Hello?" "Sarah, it's Emily," came the voice, shaky and uncertain. "I need to talk to you. I'm sorry. Please, just hear me out." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Talk to me? After everything you've done, why would I listen to you?" Emily was silent for a moment. Then she spoke again, her voice trembling with fear. "Because I know something about David, and I can't keep it to myself anymore." Sarah's pulse quickened. What was Emily talking about? Was this some sort of game, another attempt to manipulate her? Or was there actually more to the story than she knew? "I'm listening," Sarah said, her voice cold but curious. "I never wanted to get involved with David like this," Emily began, her words rushing out. "When we first met, I didn't know what he was really like. I didn't know he was hiding so much from you. But then, after I got pregnant, I found out there was something about his financial dealings. And I think he might have been involved in something much bigger than money laundering. Sarah sat up straighter, her heart racing. What do you mean, bigger? What are you saying? Emily hesitated. I found something in David's apartment. Files, documents, things I didn't understand. But I did some digging, and I think David is tied to a criminal organization. This isn't just about money. It's about something much darker. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. A criminal organization? She had suspected something was off, but this was beyond what she could have ever imagined. Her mind spun with disbelief, anger, and confusion. Why are you telling me this? Sarah asked, her voice shaking now. Because I can't live with myself knowing what I know, Emily admitted. I thought David was just in over his head, but now I realize how dangerous this is. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I want out. But I need you to know the truth. The room felt suffocating as Sarah tried to process what Emily was saying. Everything had felt like a nightmare. But now it seemed like the depths of that nightmare were even darker than she had thought. So, you're telling me that David's not just a liar and a cheater? He's involved in a criminal network? Sarah whispered, her hands trembling. And you want me to just… what? Believe you? I know this sounds unbelievable, Emily said, her voice desperate. But you have to understand. David's been playing a game far beyond anything you know, and he's been pulling both of us into it. But the deeper we get, the more dangerous it becomes. I don't want to be the one who drags you down with me. Sarah struggled to breathe. David had lied to her, but this? This was a betrayal she couldn't even fathom. I can't believe this, Sarah murmured. I don't know what to do anymore. This is all too much. Emily's voice softened. Sarah, I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for it to go this far. But you need to know that if David finds out I told you, it could put both of us at risk. Please, be careful. The next morning, Sarah stood in front of the police station, torn between her anger, her fear, and her desire to know the truth. She had to confront David. She had to hear it from him. Was Emily lying? Or was there some truth to her story? She walked into the station with determination. Her heart was heavy, but her mind was made up. It was time to end this, once and for all. When she entered the interrogation room, David looked up, his face pale and drawn. There was something in his eyes now, something that Sarah had never seen before. It wasn't the man she had loved. It was a man caught in the web of his own lies. David, we need to talk, Sarah said, her voice calm but filled with unspoken rage. David looked at her, his eyes pleading. Sarah, please. I'm sorry. I know I've done so many things wrong, but I… Don't lie to me anymore, David, Sarah interrupted, her voice trembling with emotion. I know everything, about the money laundering, about the criminal organization, and about Emily. Is it true? David's face went white. He stammered, his lips struggling to form words. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't want you involved. I never wanted you to find out. Then why didn't you tell me the truth? Sarah asked, her voice breaking. Why did you keep me in the dark for so long? David sank into his chair, his face buried in his hands. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could make everything right. But I was wrong. Now it's too late. For a long moment, Sarah just stared at him, her heart heavy with the weight of his confession. Everything she had built with David had crumbled, piece by piece, and now the final truth was laid bare. She had done everything she could to make it work, but some things couldn't be undone. Finally, she stood up, looking down at the broken man in front of her. You've destroyed everything, David. I can't fix this for you. I can't save you. I have to save myself. Without another word, Sarah walked out of the room, leaving behind a man who had destroyed everything he had ever loved. The doors of the station closed behind her with a finality she couldn't ignore. It was over. David's lies, his affair, and his dangerous secrets, they would no longer have a hold on her. Sarah's decision to walk away from David had been the hardest choice she'd ever made. But as the days went by, she began to realize something. She was reclaiming her life. The weight that had hung over her for so long was slowly lifting, and with every step she took away from David, she felt a little more like herself again. But life, as always, had one final twist in store for her. It was a week after the police station confrontation when Sarah received an envelope. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. It was David's. With a sense of dread and curiosity, Sarah opened the letter. The words inside were brief, but they hit her like a ton of bricks. Sarah, I'm sorry for everything I've put you through. I know I can never undo the damage I've done, but I need you to know something. There's more to this story. Emily isn't just a part of the criminal mess I've found myself in. She's been working with someone even more dangerous. I found out too late. They were using me and they're still after me. I'm not safe. Please, don't come looking for me. I'm not the man you thought I was, but I still care about you. Goodbye, David. Sarah's hands shook as she put the letter down. She stared at it, trying to process what David had written. Emily wasn't just pregnant and involved with David. She was working with someone dangerous. Was David's involvement really just a mistake? Had he truly been used all along? Her heart was a whirlwind of emotions. Part of her wanted to reach out, to understand more, but another part of her knew this was the end. The man she had loved was no longer the person he once was. The very next day, Sarah's phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number, and when she answered, she almost didn't recognize the voice. Sarah, it's Detective Martinez again. I'm sorry to trouble you, but I need to warn you. We've found David. Her pulse raced. What do you mean you found him? Where is he? Is he okay? There was a long pause, and Sarah could hear the deep concern in the detective's voice. David has gone into hiding. The criminal organization he was involved with, they've found out he's trying to escape. We don't know where he is now, but we suspect he's in serious danger. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. David, the man who had betrayed her, was now being hunted by dangerous people. Part of her still cared for him, despite everything. But another part of her knew she had to let go. There was nothing left for her in this mess. Thank you for letting me know, Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Please just make sure he's safe. The line went quiet for a moment before Detective Martinez spoke again. Sarah, we'll do our best, but I need you to understand. He may never be the man you thought he was. You've been through a lot, and it's time to think about your own safety. The call ended, and Sarah stood still, her mind swirling. David had been part of a world so far beyond her understanding, a world filled with danger and betrayal. She had spent years loving him, but now she had to come to terms with the fact that the person he had become was not the man she once knew. That night, Sarah sat alone on her porch, the cool air brushing her face. She thought about the years she had spent with David, the happy moments, the shared dreams, and the crushing reality of his lies. She had spent so long trying to fix things, trying to save him, but now, for the first time, she realized that her journey had to move forward. Without him, she couldn't spend her life waiting for someone who had betrayed her in the deepest ways possible. No more apologies. No more lies. It was time to start fresh, to take back control of her own life. A few days later, Sarah stood at the edge of a park watching the leaves fall. She had made peace with her decision to let David go, but as she turned to leave, she saw someone standing in the distance. It was Emily. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. What was Emily doing here? She took a step forward, and Emily turned, locking eyes with Sarah. There was no malice in her gaze, only a weariness that mirrored Sarah's own. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Emily said, her voice raw. "I didn't want any of this. I didn't want to hurt you, but I didn't know how to get out either. David, he never told me about the other side of his life. I was just trying to survive." Sarah's eyes softened, but she stood her ground. "You should have told me the truth. You should have told me about the money laundering, about the danger. Instead, you let me find out in the worst way possible." Emily nodded. "I know. And for that, I am truly sorry. I should have done better. But now, I just, I don't know what comes next. I don't have anyone left." The two women stood in silence, the weight of the past hanging between them. They were both victims, in different ways. But that didn't change the fact that their lives had been torn apart by the same man. "I can't help you anymore, Emily," Sarah said quietly. "I need to focus on myself now, and you need to do the same. You need to let go of this, too." Emily looked at her for a long moment before nodding. "I understand. I'll leave you alone. You've been through enough." As Sarah walked away, she felt a sense of finality wash over her. The twists, the pain, the confusion, it was all behind her now. David was gone, lost in a world of his own making, and Emily was now just another part of a chapter she needed to close. Life was moving on, and so was she. She had lost her trust, her love, and her belief in the man she once knew. But through the chaos, Sarah had found something more important: herself. As the sun set, Sarah knew that no matter where life would take her next, she would be okay. She was ready to move forward, to rebuild, and to finally let go of the past.